do a quick sound test. Can everybody hear me? I see a couple people on video. Can you nod your head if you see me? I see a thumbs up. Excellent. Peggy, see your chat there as well. Looks like we have Cody on. We're going to get started here in just a second. Appreciate you all being here.
Yeah, hi. This is on.
Now
I hear you. Thank you.
Perfect. Just want to confirm. All right, as we're gearing up here, I'm going to do just a quick introduction because, I've known this man, Cody Gibson, for around 9 years or so now. And what he's about to share with us are proven strategies, proven things that allow us to grow our businesses through focusing on listings. The guy's been a mega agent, a team leader, owns multiple offices, owns one of the largest expansion teams in the country, and is constantly pouring back value into the agent community because that's where he started. That's where he grew up. So I'm excited to see this. I hope you all are as well. Take some great notes. Would love to see you in the chat as well. And I'll be monitoring that to see if I can give you any additional context or answers. And with that said, we'll go ahead and wait for Cody. Whenever he's ready, we'll get rocking and rolling.
Would love to see everybody turn on their camera so we could see your amazing faces as well. And feel free to chat in the chat box. We'll be monitoring that as well to respond.
Absolutely. And can you guys hear me? We're doing like sound check here, but perfect. Yay, I figured it out. So for all of you that got an invitation from me, thank you for joining us. I think that you will be really glad that you spent this time with us this afternoon, for sure. A ton of value about to come your way.
All right, gang, thanks so much for being on here. Somebody just asked in here about Likely AI. I'll cover that towards the end if we have a minute or two. We do use Likely AI. We don't use it in every single market, but I like the program. I like the system. I like the guy who started it, Brad McDaniel. We do use Land Voice in all of our cities. So we're in 115 cities. For expansion, 28 states and 5 countries. We do use Land Voice in all of those cities. And the biggest thing for Land Voice for us that we use it for is to help data mine. So finding data. And almost all of it is public, which is how those companies go and find it. Whether you use RedX or EXP FSBO, that's another one, which just stands for expired FSBOs. Or if you use Mojo, or if you use, there's 4 or 5 major players in that space. They all do the same thing. They would all kill me if they heard me say that, and they would say that's not true. We do this and we do that, and nobody else can get our proprietary blah blah blah. At the end of the day, for you and I as operators, they all do the same thing. And the thing is, like, what I've learned about data companies is it's almost like one is great on Monday, and then they're terrible on Tuesday, then they're great on Wednesday, and then their data is mediocre on Thursday. What I've learned is, like, I've just made the decision years and years ago, I wasn't going to go and find my own. I wasn't going to go and data mine Craigslist and scrape it all day, every day for FSBOs. I wasn't going to go and scrape Zillow all day, every day for FSBOs. I wasn't going to go to, there's hundreds of sites that post for sale by owners. Of course, there's the MLS that has the expireds. I wasn't going to go and find my own. And then if I wanted to do like a canvas in a neighborhood for geographic or sociographic farming, and I wanted to find data for people and find like cell phone numbers or home addresses, that's all public knowledge. But you might spend 20 minutes finding one phone number for somebody. One of the systems we used to look at and use a lot was called Spokeo. And Spokeo is great. So I'll mention it since we're here. If you're looking for one, like just that one off, like, oh yeah, that one person that came to my open house and they gave me this number, but I needed this, like Spokeo is great. Like that's an easy one to go and find, but it just takes time. And so if you're going to do one, great, no problem. But if you're looking for data and you want like a list of data, doing your own is arduous at best. Like it's just too damn hard. All right. So anyway, same thing with Likely. Well, not the same thing. Likely actually is more artificial intelligence. And so what Likely's doing, let me give you an example. Did you know that 45% of the time It's either 45 or 40. Who cares? 40 or 45% of the time, within 6 months of buying a residential house. So this isn't for investors. This is for homeowners who are going to live in the residence. 40 to 45% of the time somebody buys their own home, they purchase a car within 6 months. And that's why when you see like when you buy a home, you'll start seeing, like, for instance, you'll immediately get something from USPS. You also will get something in the mail because they're buying data. Lowe's and Home Depot will send you gift cards, and they'll say, here's 10% off, or here's 20% off, up to $2,000 or whatever, because they go and they buy the data because they bought the tax record. There was a change, and it was like a lever, tax record change. Anyway, car dealerships will do it. Because they know that 40 to 45% of the time when somebody buys a home, within 6 months they buy a car. And there's some research and some ideas or theory around why. Here's why I think it is. I think it's because their lender told them, don't buy anything significant until after you close. Damn it, don't take out any new loans. Don't, right? Like, you and I are both realtors. So we know the truth. Like, we know that their lender was like, and if their realtor was smart, their realtor's like, hey, don't mess anything up here. Don't take out any new loans. Don't take out any new student loans. Don't consolidate any debt. Don't do anything without talking to me and your lender. So they've lived that space for 2 or 4 or 6 months while home shopping. Then they buy a home and they're in it. They've already given all they're ready. And so anyway, I say all that to say this. There's some things in our business that timing matters. And I say that to say this. You should be working with car dealerships. Why don't you go and contact the car dealerships in town that you love and say, listen, when people buy and sell homes from me, I'd love to send them something with your name on it. Like, you're my guy. Like, you're my favorite car salesman in town. By the way, the only reason or the only thing I need in return is when you're talking to somebody about buying or selling their car, if they mention a home, do you get where I'm going with this? This is where you build relationships with people that go so much deeper than just a one-off sale. If all you ever do is build the one-off sales in your business, you're never going to have a business. This is where you build a relationship with your favorite car dealership. And all of a sudden you can go and look and go, all right, so for 2022, by the way, 2021 is over. I know that it's September, but you and I both know that everything you and I do has 80 days, 100 days, 120 days before anything happens from the activities that we're taking, which means all the stuff that we're doing right now, that shit won't show up until next year. So you're already doing 2022. You're already in it. And if you wait until January to do it, then you're not going to see any results until April or May. So right now, you're in, people, I was hired to speak at an event and they said, hey, we want you to come and talk about ending 2021 strong. And I was like, well, we can, but I'd rather talk about starting 2022 right, because that's what you're actually doing. And the smartest people I know are already working 2023 and 2024. In other words, the majority of what 2022 looks like, you were laying that foundation the last 6 and 8 months. So hopefully it was a good one. I say that to say this. There's no better time than right now to start working on the future. There's no better time than right now to go, okay, listen, what do I want 2025 to look like? If you're sitting there and you go, you know what? I'm going to close 2021 with 4 sales or 6 sales or 10 sales. Couple of thoughts. Number one, everybody starts somewhere. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. So everybody has started somewhere. I love the age-old discussion around teams and brokerages. I've been in the brokerage house business for a long time. Do I want new agents or do I want experienced agents? And I don't know. I mean, to me, if I'm running a business in real estate, I want agents. Some of them are new, some of them are experienced, and some of them are everything in between. But I have to remind myself there was a day that I was brand new. There was a day that I sold my first house. There was a day that I took my first 2 listings. There was a day that I looked down and went, I got 5 transactions under contract at one time. My hair's on fire. There was another day that I looked down and went, I've got 5 transactions in contract. I'm going to go broke if I don't have 50. What the hell have I been doing? Both of those things are true. You just got to make peace with whatever level you're on right now. And as you grow, So do all the problems. Different levels, different devils, right? So I would tell you, there's no better time than right now to start going, listen, I want 2024 or 2025 to look like 100 transactions or 200 transactions. By the way, I don't care what you're ending this year at. 5 deals, 10 deals, 20 deals, it doesn't matter. You could be at 100 or 200 in 2025. Just as easily, you could be at 10 or 12 transactions in 2025. Both of those things are true. What dictates where you are in 2025 is what you do in 2022. And what we usually do, this sounds like a smart quote, but I stole it from Gary Keller. He said, we tend to overestimate what we can do in a year, and we dramatically underestimate what we can do in 3, 4, or 5 years. And so, I don't know, if you sold 10 homes in 2021, I suppose you could sell 100 homes in 2022, but it's unlikely, highly unlikely. And for somebody who's paid to be a motivational speaker, the comment itself makes me feel weird when I make it. But let's be clear, it's highly unlikely. It's not impossible, but it's highly unlikely. You know what is more likely? If I sold 10 homes in 2021, maybe I sell 30 or 40 in 2022 or 50. By the way, the jump from 5 to 10 to 30 or 50 is gargantuan. It's huge. It's massive. The jump from 100 to 200 or 250, not so massive. The jump from 250 to 500, one of the biggest jumps you'll make in your entire career if you get that far. There's some natural levels at this that are really, really damn hard. Going from 5 or 10 units a year to 20, not a big deal. Going from 20 to 40, big deal, really big deal. 40 to 70, not so bad. Do you get my point? Like when you think about building your business, there's some groups of, there's some spaces of time that we call kind of no man's land. Going from 2 units a month to 4 units a month or 5 units a month is a really big jump. Going from 10 units a month to 15 units a month won't feel like much. But there's some natural evolutions. You'll look down and go, wow, why did it feel like I hit sandpaper all of a sudden? Which is also what it feels like between wherever you are right now if you're under 24 units a year. 24 units a year is 2 transactions a month. The benefit of doing 2 transactions a month, if you go and you do the math and you do the homework, for most markets in the US, 2 transactions a month puts you at 150 to 210,000 in GCI. Gross commission. Go run the math. It's 150 to 200 grand. Before I got into real estate in the year 2000, I never made 150 grand. So the first time I made 150 a year was being a real estate agent. Selling 2 homes a month is your ticket to anywhere you want to go in the industry. But what I find people do is they spend so much time talking about and looking at selling 10 or 20 or 30 that they never actually go and do the work to sell 2. If you're not selling 2 homes a month, month in, month out, like you wake up on the first of the month and you go, I got 2 closings this month. Is there a way that I could find a 3rd or a 4th? I know I've got 2 though. I can count on 2 for sure. And I know I've got 2 next month. And I know I've got 2 the month after that. Do you get my point? Like when you hit there, the 2 units a month is like a floor and you begin to look for a new ceiling. But there's no sense in thinking about anything unless you're at 2 a month. Like that's the threshold. If you're under 2 a month, 24 transactions a year, if you're under 2 a month, nothing else matters, just getting to 2. Then the next thing that matters is making it sustainable, doing it again and again and again. And the reason I say that is this: if you make 150 or 200 grand in real estate, that might not be your ceiling, but you'll never leave the industry. You'll never look down and go, I gotta go find a job. You'll never look down and go, I can't afford to take a vacation. You'll never look down and go, wow, is there any way I'm gonna be able to pay my mortgage in 2 months? You're never gonna have to think about that crap. And so the faster you can get to 2 a month, which is about 150 or 200 grand a year in commission, you don't have to worry about those things anymore. And then it's a matter of how far do I want to go? But the reason that's so important is that when you're selling a home and then you go 3 months or 4 months without selling one, or you sell 2 in a month and then you go 6 months with none, there's no consistency to your income, which means there's no consistency to your life, which means sometimes you feel like you're rich. You just closed 2 units, you got 20 grand in commission. You're like, oh my God, this is great. And then you go 6 months with nothing. Like that sucks. And you worry about paying your car payment or your mortgage. Like that really, really sucks. That's a horrible life to live. And that's where the income looks like this. You hear things like in commission or in real estate, it's feast or famine. No, it's not. You're full of shit. It's actually not feast or famine at all, but you can make it feast or famine. Do you get my point? And if you're selling only 4 or 5 units a year, that's feast or famine. But if you look at someone who's selling hundreds of transactions, we don't live feast or famine. Now, what we do is we look down and go, listen, we're at 400. How do we get to 800? But that's not feast or famine. You graduate the class of never worrying about your bills again. Like I look down and I worry about money. Like I worry about money all the time, but I have a different worry today than 18 years or 20 years ago when I worried about paying my mortgage. I don't give any thought today to whether I can pay my mortgage in 4 months. I just don't. I don't care. Like I know that's done. I don't give any thought to, can I take my kids on 2 amazing vacations this year? And that sounds conceited, but I don't mean it that way, because 19 years ago, I thought, how in the hell am I going to pay my mortgage in 2 months? I went and I looked and I went, crap, I can't, like one of the first vacations I took as a realtor, I borrowed money from my broker to go on the vacation. And the guy was such a jerk, he loaned me the money. He should have never loaned me the money. He should have said, no, I refuse. I'm not loaning you money to go on a vacation that you haven't earned the right to be on. Do you feel me on that? Because I was on that beach and it was like day 3 or day 4. And I remember thinking, shit, I got to pay for this when I get back. I felt like such an idiot when it came to money because I financed a vacation. How dumb is that? Like, but I've done it. Like I've done it. And so when I say things like, I don't worry about my mortgage, it's not a brag. It's understanding that you make it past that level. You graduate from that class, but you have to graduate from it. And by the way, I don't have any philosophy or thought process in my head that says I may never have to go back to a class. Life shows up. Like there's lots of classes in my life that I've thought, I've graduated from this, I'm never going back. And then I look down in 6 months and go, damn it, I got fat again. I got to go back to the fitness class, right? Come on. You know, or maybe personal life. And you go, I thought I was never dealing with this again. And damn it, here I am. I've never gotten so big that I've thought it's impossible to go backwards again. Of course it is. Like anything could happen. Last March when COVID hit, like we were zero basing our businesses going, what do we do if we have zero income for 6 months? And by the way, last March, we had no idea. Was it 6 months or 6 weeks or 6 years? We didn't know. We had no idea, man. Ultimately, it turned out pretty damn good for our industry, but there's lots of industries that didn't. My friends that owned restaurants, they're still dealing with the havoc of it, right? All right, so I say all that to say this. Make peace with whatever grade you're in, but don't stay in that grade. Like I look at it like I look at life and I go, listen, like my daughter dropped off at school this morning, right? One's in 7th grade and one's in 4th grade. The 4th grade one isn't supposed to know the things that the 7th grade one is knowing. They're at different levels in their life, so they learn differently. And there's nothing wrong with my 4th grader being a great 4th grader. There's nothing wrong with my 4th grader saying, listen, this is the stuff you learn in 4th grade. We're going to learn this about history and this about geography, and right? Like that makes sense for a 4th grader, but it would be stupid for my 7th grader. Both of those things are true. My 7th grader would be dumb if she was having to go back and learn the 4th grade stuff. And of course, I look at life and I look at it the way I look at business. Figure out in your business, like, where are you? What grade are you in? If you're selling a house and then nothing for 2 or 3 months, you're a 1st grader at real estate. That's okay. I was a 1st grader in real life. And I've been a 1st grader at real estate. The difference is you don't stay there. You graduate from it and go to the next grade. And then you graduate that one, you go to the next grade. And in real estate, like you might go 1 or 2 grades and you might slip back a grade. Like out of all the people I've coached for years and years and years, and I've coached dozens and dozens and dozens directly, indirectly thousands, but I've coached dozens and dozens directly to doing 10 transactions a month. Dozens, maybe even 100 or more. And it's not uncommon for me to have helped somebody get to 10 transactions in a month to have the very next month go back to 2 or 3. And that didn't make the 10 that they did one month, because what I'm going to give you today is 7 steps to 10 listings. And that would be 10 listings in 1 month. But most of the people I've coached to do it, if they were newer realtors or they hadn't ever done it before. So usually it's somebody who's averaging 1 or 2 a month. And then they go to 10. And they do it like on month 3 or month 4 of coaching with me. And they're like, oh my God, that's a lot. And usually what happens is they get to 10 after 3 or 4 months. And then the very next month, they go back to 2. It's not because the 10 was wrong. And it's not because the 10 was fake. Damn it, they took the 10 listings. But it wasn't their new floor. You flirt with success. Like if you're averaging, 1 transaction every 2 or 3 months, then you'll go to 1 transaction a month. You might even go to 2 transactions a month, but it's like a high watermark. You begin to flirt with it and you go up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And then let's say that let's just take 10. You're doing 10 listings a month. You might do 10 and then 2. Then you do 9 and then 5. Then you do 10 and 8 and then 10 and 8 and 10 and you get my point? You do that for a year or 2 and you look down one day and you go, 10's like a floor. It's not an occasional ceiling. It's a floor. Like this is, I don't even think about this anymore. And the reason is this, and I want you to write this down. Success has more to do with habits than it does with anything else. The habitual life of a realtor who takes 10 listings every month is more important to me than the script or the dialogue that she uses. It's more important to me than the levers in her real estate sales business that she uses. Those things don't matter. It's the expectation, it's the habitual life. Like, how do they live? And one of the habits of the highest producers I've ever hung out with is this: they cannot help themselves. Wherever they are, if there are human beings there, they're talking to them about real estate. I could do a class and say 25 ways to generate 2 sales a month, and people would show up. But you know what nobody would show up to is if I said, I'm going to do a class on how every time you're within earshot of somebody breathing, you mention that you're a realtor. No one's coming to that class because it's not exciting. It's not sexy. But the highest earners I know, that's what they do. It just doesn't sell topics. It doesn't sell classes. But it does sell real estate. They can't help themselves. Everywhere they go, if they're in line at Starbucks, the person next to them knew they were a realtor. Now, by the way, you could do that cheesy or you could do that with grace and class. Here's what I think is cheesy. Looking at someone and going, hey, that looks like a human being. I'm going to give them my card and ask them who they might know that wants to buy a home, sell a home, or invest in real estate. That's kind of cheesy, but it's better than nothing. Do you hear me? It's better than nothing. And if that's where you start, great. Start with that. You just don't stay there very long. Find a better dialogue. Find a better way to mention that you're a realtor. Find a better thing you can say. By the way, the easiest way to talk to people is to ask them questions about themselves. Here's an easy question to ask somebody in line at Starbucks. Now, it's fake if it's not true, but look at someone and go, wow, you look really great today. What do you do for a living? Nothing wrong with that. Now, I think if they're in shorts and a ratty t-shirt, that's probably a defunct question. But if they actually do look well put together, go, wow, you look really fantastic. What do you do for a living? And they're going to say, oh, I do blah, 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 blah. Thank you so much. And they're almost always going to do what? They're going to reciprocate and ask you, what do you do for a living? All of a sudden, then you get to share that you're a realtor. You know how much better that is than just saying, that's a breathing person. Here's my card. Here's what I need. Help me. By the way, that's how it sounds. You just find ways to talk to everybody. No one comes to a class that's about that, but they should. Like, are they breathing, and can you find a way to talk about real estate? All right. If I don't jump into it, we won't get into it. Lacey, can you put up the PowerPoint, the slide? These are what I've taught for the last 3 or 4 years to maybe, like, I've taught it to about 100,000 realtors, and our group has taught it to even more. 7 steps to 10 listings a month. And the important thing that I want you to think about is this. What would it look like if you took 10 listings every single month? What would your business end up looking like? What would your income look like? Money matters for the things it can do. And you don't have to do 10. Maybe you look down and go, you know what? For me to live the life I want to live, it's going to be 3 listings a month or 4 listings a month. By the way, you're going to hear me talk about listings. I need to be really clear with you. I don't really give a damn if this is seller listings or buyer listings. I don't really care. Now, one of them depicts the other in our industry. That is a well-known fact that seller listings forever and ever and ever, amen, will usually create buyer listings. Buyer listings are buyer rep agreements, right? Like a new buyer who is ready, able, and willing to buy, but agrees to only buy from you. We call those buyer listings or buyer rep agreements, right? So that's a buyer listing. In the old days, like in 1990, in the year 2000, a top-notch seller listing could handle, seller listing agent, somebody who was focused on sellers, could handle about 30 transactions a month. The very best seller listing focused agents could do about 30 units a month. And the very best buyer focused agents could handle about 8 or 10 units a month. And so even to this day, 20 years later, you have people make comments like, you can do more sellers transactions in a month than you can buyer transactions. That's probably true, or at least truthy, but it's not as true as it used to be. Because in the old days, we used to put buyers in our car on Saturday and drive them around for 8 hours. No one does that anymore. In the old days, when we wrote an offer for a buyer, we'd go and meet her or him at their house or have them meet us at our office, and we would actually write the offer with them, explain the offer to them, and then go and present it to the seller. Really time intensive. Today, we do an offer in DocuSign and email it to them. Totally different. So today, our very, very best seller-focused agents can still do about 30 or maybe 35 transactions in a month on their own. No team, on their own. Like, that's a lot. And our very best buyer-focused agents can do less, but not by much. Our very best buyer-focused agents can do 20 or 25 transactions a month on their own without like a team or a bunch of assistants behind them. Now, those are both the standouts. Those are not the average. Those are the standouts, like the very best in class. By the way, if you're going to do this, why not be the very best? One of the questions that Gary's asked for years is, are you going to do this the best you can or do it the best it can be done? Those are two wildly different things. Doing it the best it can be done is a process that you never get out of. Doing it the best it can be done is a class you go to that you say, I'm never going to graduate from this because I can always do it a little bit better. That's like saying, like, if you're like, I'm a dad. And so I believe in being the best dad that can be, not the best dad that I can be, which means I have an unlimited potential of being a better dad. Like, no matter how good of a dad as I am, I could be better tomorrow. I could be better the next year. And that doesn't mean that I look down and go, oh, here's all the things I'm doing wrong. No, not at all. I emphasize the things I'm doing right, and then I do more of them. So I say all that to say this. I don't care if those are seller listings or buyer listings. Both of them can make you money. All right. Lacey, I think you have to click the screen for this to work, maybe. Very good. All right. So step number 1 is set one listing appointment every single day. So if you're going to work 22 days a month, you've got to be in the habit of taking a listing appointment or setting a listing appointment every single day. And again, I don't care if they're buyer listings or seller listings. It probably doesn't matter. Both of them can probably make you all the money you ever want to make. Now, later we could talk about, should you focus on this or this? It doesn't matter. Again, if you're not closing 2 units a month, you don't have any problems in your business, except how do I get to closing 2 units a month every single month? And then how do I do that for a year so that I never, ever fall back? Because from that position, you could go anywhere. From that defensible position, it doesn't matter what happens in your life. Everything could burn to the ground. And if you say, I can always sell 2 units a month, you can always rebuild. Even if you got your business to 5 units a month or 10 units a month, let's say that you did it through a certain lever and you're like, yeah, this is awesome. Well, what if that lever goes away? Here's an example. What if your lever has been expireds and you are amazing at expireds? Well, guess what we haven't seen for the last 18 months? Expireds. My friends who are amazing at expireds, their businesses suck right now. And it's not because they suck, it's because they were just great at expireds, and there's no expireds in their market. Like you go to a market like Phoenix that has always had enough expireds that an agent could go and sell a couple hundred units a year just by working expireds. Well, that ain't happening today. And I don't know if it's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know. But if you can get to the point where you always have a couple of closings a month, you can always recover. You can say, all right, I'm going to tighten my belt. I was used to making 500 a year, but oh well, this happened. I worked with these builders and all my new construction business went away. Oh well, I can close 2 units every month. I'm going to be fine. I'll make 180 this year. You know how amazing that still is? I'm going to pay my mortgage. I'm going to go on some great trips, and I can rebuild from anywhere. Like when that's your floor, when that's the worst possible scenario for you to live in, you can do anything, man. And that's what I want you to think. But you got to get there first, and then you got to prove it. Remember when you were a kid and you played horse or pig with basketball? You make the last shot and the other person doesn't, then you got to come back and prove it and make the shot a second time to actually win at pig or win at horse. That's what real estate looks like. You might close 2 in a month, but you got to prove it. You got to do it again. And by the way, you got to do it more than once. You got to do it again and again and again and again. But then you look down, like I look down and I go, all right, I've got this massive real estate sales business. And I'm not bragging about it because I've worked my ass off to get there. And so have a lot of people in our business. But I look down and I think, you know what? Everything could go to hell. Like everything could burn to the ground, but I'm okay. Because I could go right back to selling 2 homes a month, month after month after month. I can't have a lot of staff and sell 2 homes a month, but I'm going to be okay. My mortgage is fine. My kids are going to stay in the school they go to. We're going to go on a great trip. We might not do 5 great trips, but we're going to do 1 great trip. We're going to live a really good life. And from there, I could rebuild and do anything. Setting a listing appointment a day is more about habit than it is about skill. Let me tell you what I mean. I need you to understand that you expect that you set one every day. Like if I said you have to set a listing appointment today or you're dead, you'd set a listing appointment. Like you'd figure it out. Where does it come from? Who cares? Am I going to use this, or this? Who cares? It doesn't really matter. I wake up with the expectation I'm going to do it. And the day that you don't, and here's the other thing I'm going to say about this, like if you're going to set one listing appointment every single day, and you go down this road of setting one, no holdovers. Here's what I mean by no holdovers. If you go and set one today, you go, yeah, and then the next day you don't add that to the day after that and go, well, now I got to do 2 to catch up. No, screw that. You don't do that. When you're building your way to a new floor, you can't throw numbers on top of it. It's no different than if I said, listen, we're going to go sell 2 units a month. Let's do triage, right? Let's make sure that nobody dies. I don't want to die in real estate. I could lose everything tomorrow. I'm not going to die in real estate because I know I can sell 2 units every single month. I know that's a very minimum, not even worried about it. Like wouldn't even skip a beat. 2 units a month, no problem. By the way, I'll make 200 grand a year doing that. I can rebuild from there. I can do anything from there. That's making sure I have a heartbeat first. And let's say that you're doing 2 a month. On month 3, you sell 0. That doesn't mean that you do 4 the next month. No, it just means you're not ready to graduate yet. Stay in class. But if you said, okay, and there's a lot of coaching theory out there that says, listen, if you're short, it's kind of like contacts. If I'm going to do 20 contacts a day, if I miss a day on Wednesday and do 0, I got to do 40 on Thursday. That sucks. You're not going to do it. And what's going to happen is you're going to load it and you're going to go and you're, all right, I got to do 40 on Thursday, but you're not going to do 40. You're going to do 25 or 20. You go, all right, we got to carry it over again. And then now you look down and you're on a day where you've got 70 you're not going to do that. Like it's not going to happen. That's a stupid way of building a business. This is building a threshold floor, which means you just stick with it until you do it. Which means on the day that you don't or the month you don't add it to the next one. You just go, cool, start over. Cool, start over. And you might start over 10 times. Who said how many times you get to start over before you're kicked out of the class? Nobody. So if you got to start over 10 times, so what? You learn something every time. All right. Setting an appointment means this. It means that you making the calls, whether it's 10 a day, 20 a day, 50 a day, it doesn't matter to me. You can't stop calling. And I'm going to just use the term calling. I don't really care if it's internet lead gen, knocking on doors, open houses, calling, whatever your levers are, you can't stop until you set it. But it's about setting a habit. It's an expectation that before I go to bed tonight, I'm going to set an appointment. Nobody said they had to be good appointments. You don't start with setting a good appointment every day. You start with setting an appointment for anybody you can. By the way, I think this is also depicted with classes and masses. Like there's going to come a day in your real estate business, I hope, that you look down and you go, listen, I'm not meeting with anybody who isn't ready to sell in the next month. Someone who's talking about selling this year, I'm not going to run out there and take that appointment. The problem is we give advice to people as if it should be everybody's advice. Let me say it really clear. If you're only selling 5 units a year, you meet with every living person who's willing to meet with you. I did. And that's how I coach people. Yeah, 100%. Someone goes, you know what? They called me about my marketing and they said they might want to sell in 2 years. When can we meet? I'm coming over right now. Like there's a place in your career, that's how you respond. There's also going to be a time in your career that when you're selling 10 units a month that you go, okay, let's go through and let's justify this appointment or qualify the appointment. This guy is 2 years out. I'm not meeting with him. That's okay, but that's not where you are if you're selling one every couple of months. You meet with everybody who's willing to meet with you. And you do that until you graduate from that grade. Then you move forward. That's my advice. All right. I want you to visit one FSBO or expired every day. And I built this course in 2017. We had FSBOs and expireds in the market in 2017, also in 2018, also in 2019. It was 2020 that it's almost like someone shut off FSBOs and expireds. And by the way, I've taught this for so many years, it doesn't matter to me if you work FSBOs and expireds or not. Now, I think you're a fool if you don't or won't work FSBOs and expireds. Why wouldn't you? Like you and I chose an industry and chose a profession of being real estate agents. And then the people that say, I'd like to sell my house, but I want to sell it on my own, we go, yeah, we shouldn't call that person. That's the dumbest thing on earth. I should 100% call that person. The worst thing that happens is they remain a for sale by owner. I've literally lost nothing. People will say to me, they'll say, I don't want to call a FSBO because what if they won't list with me? Listen, Scooter, they're already not listed with you. You already don't have it. It's already a deal you don't have. It can't get worse from here. They can't say, no, I won't list with you and I'm going to take one of your listings. They can't do that. So you can't go down from there. You already don't have it. And so it's the dumbest thing on earth, like 100%. Like I'm in the business of selling homes and you want to sell your own. Awesome. We're going to talk. And the worst thing that happens is you stay where you are. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm going to do my best to convert you, but I'm going to talk with you. The problem is what people do is instead of talking to people that want to sell, they go and they talk to hundreds of people that don't want to sell. And then they wonder why they don't do any business. Well, because you're talking to people who aren't hungry and you're trying to sell them a meal. They're not hungry. You got a list of people over here who say they're hungry. Go and sell to them. Like that makes perfect sense to me. All right. So I said all that to say this. If you choose to not work FSBOs or expireds, that's okay. You need to replace this with somebody every day that you visit. This isn't a phone call. This is face-to-face. That you visit who has a hand in the air saying they want to sell. That could be somebody from Make Me Move. That could be somebody from Zillow. That could be somebody from your internet lead gen. That could be somebody from your own in-house lead gen that you do. It doesn't matter to me. You need to get face-to-face with somebody who wants to sell right now, that you know wants to sell or buy. This isn't like, what drives me nuts is the advice that we give people. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to someone who goes, you know what? I'm selling 4 homes a year or 5 homes a year, and someone told me to go door knocking for my lead gen. That's stupid. And anybody who told you to go do that, I probably shouldn't say is stupid, but I'm going to say I think it was stupid advice. It's terrible advice. That's horrible advice. The reason for that is this. You're taking people that are at their weakest point, a realtor who is broke, and they're selling 3 or 4 homes a year, but they really want to be selling 2 or 3 a month. And they go, listen, all right, I'll do anything. I'm willing to work 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week. I'm willing to do anything. I will do anything to get to 3 or 4 sales a month. What do? There are 100 better plans out there than just go out there and go door knocking. That is cheap advice given by cheap thinkers. There, I said it, but I didn't call them dumb. Don't quote me. That the advice should be, let's go do this and exhaust this. Then let's go do this. Then let's go do this. There is I cannot think of a good time that I would tell somebody, I think you ought to go door knocking. Because I think it's a waste of time. You shouldn't go door knocking. There's 100 other lead generation levers. Now, the only caveat, let's say that part of your lead generation is you take a geographic area and you go, you know what? I'm going to be the guy that hosts garage sales in this really cool tract home subdivision. By the way, you would never do garage sales for a subdivision that wasn't tract home. There's a reason for that. Don't have time to go into it, but there's a reason for it. If that was the case, then okay, maybe you go and door knock in there, but you have a purpose to be there. You're not just hoping for the best. But the advice for let's just go door knocking is usually from someone who can't think of a better lead generation idea from you. And so they just go, cool, you might as well just go knock on doors and hope for the best. Well, that's dumb. If you look at the end of a street, you got 100 homes and 100 homes. That's 200 homes. I'm really good at math in public. I got 200 homes. And I'm going to knock on all of those doors. And I'm going to tell them, I'm in real estate. Do you want to buy a home, sell a home, or invest in real estate? And all 200 of them do not want to do it. I've literally moved my business nowhere. The worst thing that happens is I go door knocking in some random neighborhood on some random Tuesday because I need to make money. The worst thing that could happen is somebody actually wants to buy or sell. For the day, it'll be great because you're going to sell a house, but it ain't going to happen again. That's like catching a fish that isn't supposed to be in the river right now. Salmon return to a river a certain time every year. That does not mean that there isn't a random salmon who shows up 2 months early or 2 months late, and you catch it and you go, yes! But then you try to catch it again and it ain't going to happen because you caught the one strange one. Can't build a business based on that. A business is built on sustainability. Let me say it again. A business is built on sustainability. Can I go and catch it again? If you can't say, use this kind of bait, this kind of way, in this kind of water, and you're going to catch a fish out of that water every 8th cast or 25th cast, whatever the average is, that's not a sustainable business. That's called luck. And you don't want to build a business based on luck. So this is where I say I want you to visit one door every day. See a door that you weren't at yesterday. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to have an appointment. It just means you need to be in the way of good things to happen. I can't tell you how many times in my business I have made money by being in the way of good things to happen. Let me tell you a story. When I was early in my career, one of my managers said, I want you to go and visit 5 homes every day. Just go visit 5 homes. You're not showing 5, just go visit 5 a day. And I was like, cool. I was told what to do, so I just went and did it. And it was like my 3rd or 4th week in real estate. And I was walking up to a home just to preview it. And in the front by the street was a for sale sign, and it had flyers in it. And as I was walking to the front door to preview it, and I'm dressed in a suit and tie, as I'm walking to the front door to preview it, this person pulls up, grabs a flyer and says, hey, is this home still for sale? And I said, it sure is. I'm showing it right now. Come on in. And that person walked in the house with me, and I sold that person that house that day. I didn't have an appointment. I was in the way of something good to happen. And I could have been at my office, but I wasn't. I was out in the field. And for years and years and years, I sat open houses during the week on Tuesday at lunch or Thursday at 2 in the afternoon, not because those were the best times and days to hold open houses. But I would always take my office work and I would say, okay, cool. I'm going to do my all of my letter campaigns or all of my notes or all of my database management stuff. If that took me 8 hours a week to do it, that was 8 hours sitting at open houses. Because why not put a sign in front of a house and sit at their dining room table for 2 hours and work on my database and nobody comes in? Who cares? I'm still doing that mundane office work that needs to be done. But while I'm sitting there, it's like being on the back of a boat and having 2 fishing poles in the water. And it's like, all right, I'm probably not going to catch any fish. But if I don't have fishing poles in the water, I am for sure not going to catch a fish. And so doing an open house Thursday at 2 is probably the worst time of the week to do an open house. But it's the best time of the week to do an open house that you're already doing busy work. Do you follow me on this? This is where you get in the habit of putting yourself in the way of good things to happen. And if you do that for 3 or 4 different things all the time, you're not going to be able to help yourself but fall into transactions. All right. Next. Why FSBOs and expireds? Because FSBOs have a hand in the air saying, I want to sell. Expireds have 2 hands. I want to sell and I'll pay you. Right now, we don't have very many of either, so you got to get really creative. I just need you to show up, be in the way for good things to happen. The unsolicited CMA process, this is something that I would want you to go and do. Like if you were coaching with me, I would tell you to do 2 APIs weekly, even if they're fake. Now, an API stands for Absorption-Based Pricing Index. If we had more time, I'd go into what it means, but it means basically a CMA. It's just different. So let me give you one of the biggest points I can give you. I want you to be different than all other agents. And not just different in little things, different in big things. Here's what I mean. If every agent in town uses a white colonial sign post, I'm going to find a red one or a black one. If I'm at KW, obviously, because I'm going to do a color that makes sense for KW, but I'm just going to be different. If every agent in town uses those 18-inch sandwich board, hanging signs for their open houses, I'm going to be the one guy in town that does the tall sandwich board ones that look like this for open houses. I'm just going to look different. All the way down to CMAs and APIs. Years and years and years ago, I was going to a listing appointment and the seller goes, hey, could you go ahead and bring a CMA with you? And on that day, I knew CMA was dead because it was too bland. It was too generic. I don't want to be generic. I don't want to be bland. I want to look different. And so to this day, I'll say, no, we can't bring a CMA. We do an API. They're a little bit more in depth and they take more time. But I don't know a better way to do it than to do it the right way. Can I explain? By the way, you can hear the script in that. And they go, yeah, of course. And you go, great. An API is an absorption-based pricing index. Now, reverse for a second. Which one sounds better, a CMA or an absorption-based pricing index? Holy hell. An absorption-based pricing index makes you sound like an expert. So even if you're not, you may as well sound like one. And so I'd have you do 2 of those every single week, even if they're fake. Now, one of the things you can do is use them as unsolicited. So if you have a database, which many of you probably don't have a giant, great database, so freaking what? So what? You're not wrong. You're not an idiot. You would be wrong and you would be an idiot if you went 2 more years and didn't have a great database. For God's sake, start doing it and build one great. But wherever you are is where you are. That's where you are. You're supposed to be there. You're not supposed to stay there. 2 different things. But when you have a great database, I want you to start sending unsolicited CMAs. And I can teach you how to do it. It's where you actually email it and you go, listen, I was doing some research on your real estate holdings, which makes you sound amazing. I was doing some research on your real estate holdings. It looks like your home is worth about, and then blah, blah, blah. There's a whole thesis, there's a whole theory of doing this the right way. But if that's not the class you're in, if that's not the grade you're in, then there's no sense in learning it. Learn the grade that you're in and then move out of that grade. My 4th grader isn't supposed to learn things my 7th grader's learning. And my 7th grader isn't supposed to be relearning things my 4th grader is learning. And so wherever you are in your real estate business, be okay with it. In other words, quit going to stuff that's 10 levels past where you are. Not because you are not going to be there someday. Don't mistake what I'm saying. But because it's not the grade you're supposed to be in. My 4th grader is not supposed to go to a calculus class today. And it would be a waste of time for her to be in one. She should be in grades in classes that are appropriate for a 4th grader to go to the 5th, and then be appropriate for a 5th to go to the 6th. You get my point? That's how you move through grades. A 4th grader who sat through a calculus class every single week is never going to do it. Follow-up Wednesdays, step 3. Follow-up Wednesdays is where you have a day of follow-up. And I'm going to give you a lead generation schedule that you could use your entire career. Mondays and Tuesdays are cold lead gen. Mondays and Tuesdays are where I would call FSBOs, expireds, geographic marketing, sociographic marketing. Anybody that I have to introduce myself to, they don't know who I am, or I have to remind them who I am, that's for Mondays and Tuesdays. There's a reason for that. On Wednesdays is follow-up Wednesdays. On Wednesday, that's where I follow up on all of my leads. Notice I called them leads, on all of my leads that may want to do business in the next 6 or 12 months. Some of them are in the next 10 days. Some of them are in the next 10 months, but they're the kind of person that I'm following up with every single week until they're ready and until it's time. Thursdays, database day. This is just my generic database work. It's where I'm calling and following up, and I'm going, oh yeah, I haven't talked to this person in 2 months. Beep, boop, 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 boop. Let's look at my notes. It says here that I talked to them 2 months ago and they were going to go to Disneyland. This is where I call and I just check in and I go, hey, how was that trip to Disneyland? You guys have fun? Like all the database stuff. On Fridays is a free day. Ever played bingo and you'll admit it? In the middle of the card, it's a free space. Well, that's what Friday is for lead gen. If you have all the appointments you need for the week, then do 0 lead gen on Friday. Enjoy your day. Go and catch a movie at noon. You're probably going to be pretty busy with work if you've set all the appointments that you need. But if you haven't set all the appointments you need, that's where you've built your 5-day business week into 4 days, so that you have a day to play catch up if you need it. You have a day to play catch up on Friday if on Wednesday your kids were sick and you stayed home to take care of them. And if you're a good parent and your kids are sick on Wednesday, damn it, you ought to stay home and take care of them. And you ought to take care of them and not be on the phone trying to build your real estate business. Be appropriate to the moment. But that only works if you've actually planned for all the what ifs. And that's where the saying is, I'm going to hope for the best and plan for the worst. I'm going to hope that by Friday, I've got all my appointments needed. But if I don't, I've already got Friday dog-eared to work as hard as I need to catch up. That's a great business. Hope for the best and plan for the worst. All right, so follow-up Wednesdays. Follow-up Wednesdays, this is where the first time you make a contact with somebody, it's where you use your best script or your best dialogue. The second time you talk to them, you use your second best script or your second best dialogue. After that, you probably quit following up, which is a mistake. The gold is in the follow-up. The faster you get, and here's the script. I'm going to give you a script that you could use your entire career and make mountains of money with it. The faster you get to a script that says something like, hey, I'm just following up again this week. If you need anything real estate related, give me a call. That's it. By the way, that's a voicemail, because 80% of the time, like at United Home Group, we have telemarketers who make phone calls for all of our partners across the country. We've done the research. We know that about 80 or 82% of the time, we get voicemail. No matter how good the call list is, we get voicemail, which means you need a really good voicemail. You need a really good follow-up system. So that's a voicemail. The only difference when they answer the phone is, hey, John, it's Cody over here at United Home Group. I'm just calling to follow up real quick. Did you need anything real estate related this week? They're going to say, no, I'm good, or I'm fine. You'll say, great, cool, no problem. We just sold a couple homes in your neighborhood. We'd love to make yours next when you're ready. I'll call and follow up again. Let me know if you need anything. That's a 20-second contact, 60-second contact. No big deal. They say, great, thanks, see ya. And you update the database, and then you call them again. You follow up again. You need to understand that if every time you contact somebody, you take 10 or 15 minutes of their time, they're going to quit taking your call. By the way, Follow-Up Wednesday is not for somebody who might want to do business in 5 years. It's for somebody who said something like, well, I'm not 100% sure. I'm kind of watching how this COVID thing pans out. I might sell this year. That guy goes on Follow-Up Wednesdays. The person that said, I'm not real sure. It depends on what happens in my business, but I might want to buy a home later this year. That's the person who goes on Follow-Up Wednesdays. The person that you have nothing to follow up with about, they don't go on follow-up Wednesdays. They go back into your database and they come back out and you follow up in 6 weeks or 8 weeks or 12 weeks, whatever's appropriate to your business. But you can't call everybody every week for no good reason. They will quit taking your calls. So you have to build a follow-up Wednesday. These are people that come through your open house and they're like, yeah, we're not 100% sure, but if we get XYZ, promotion, we're going to be looking in this neighborhood. Cool. That goes on your follow-up Wednesday. There's a reason to be in touch with them. Just because they're breathing does not mean you should call them every week. You've got different buckets in your database for a reason. All right, follow up on old leads. They're 12 weeks, 14 weeks, 16 weeks, simple script. You end every call with saying or reminding or voicemail, I'm going to follow up. I'm going to follow up. But you got to keep them brief. You got to keep them short. All right, post one buyer message every single week. This is step 4. If you want to sell more homes and use social media to do it, this matters. I'm going to use Facebook as a holder. There's Instagram, there's other pieces, but Facebook would be king right now. I don't know that it will stay king for 10 more years, but it's king right now. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to create a post on Facebook, make it specific. The 3 terms, if you want to make money on social media, stop the scroll. You could write whatever you want and people scroll through social media like this. If you don't make them stop, then whatever you wrote was worthless. Whatever you wrote didn't matter, because if they're not reading it, who cares? You got to stop the scroll. The best time to post is about 1 to 3 on Wednesdays or late morning on the weekends. Now, hang on a second. This data was from before the pandemic. There was more eyeballs, like 18% more eyeballs on Facebook Wednesdays just after lunch or late morning on the weekends. I did the research. We don't know what it is right now. Like, we don't know. Like, Facebook usage right now is up 250%. I don't know that it matters when you post right now, but I'm sticking to a model that I know works. If Facebook overall is up 250%, and it is since COVID began, like more people with more time, that's a fact. I'm still going to believe that after lunch on Wednesday or late morning on the weekends is still that much more. So I'm going to stick to a model that works over time. I don't know. By the way, when you have new data someday, you might change the model, but until I have a better model, I'm sticking with it. Now, this is what matters though. I'm working with the blank family. So I'm working with the Johnson family or the Wilson family. If you could do a picture, even better. They're looking for a blank home and blank neighborhood for blank price. Who do you know? There has to be specifics. I live in Portland, Oregon. And if I were to say in Portland, hey, I'm working with the Wilson family, they're looking for a 3-bedroom house within 10 minutes of the Nike campus, because Nike is based here. Everybody in Portland knows geographically what 10 minutes around the Nike campus looks like. They know it's going to be this neighborhood, not that one. And the reason it's important is this: the brain likes specifics. So you could use, like, if you don't live in Portland, where all the cool people live, maybe you use a hospital in your area, or a school that everybody knows, or the airport, something that says geographically, it makes them think, oh yeah, it's there. There's so much up here that goes into these things. What you should quit posting, please, for the love of all things holy in real estate, for God's sakes, please quit posting when you're broke. Please quit posting, if you know anybody who wants to buy or sell, let me know. That is cheap. It sounds as cheap as it is. It's garbage. And you're better than that. And if you're not better than that, I want you to get better than that. That's okay. Be appropriate to the grade you're in, but move up a grade. And the grade you'd move up to is, hey, my friends are looking for XYZ in this neighborhood. Who do you know? Because that at least gives them something specific. When you just say, when you're ready to buy or sell, call me, that sounds cheap, because it is. It sounds like begging, because it is. Stop it. Quit it. I want you to attract business, not beg for business. I want you to attract clients, not beg for clients. It's okay. You can do both. But let's start attracting instead of begging. All right, step number 5, every seller every week. And this is also every buyer every week. Right now, you don't need a great business plan to contact every seller every week. Because right now, listings are selling so fast across the country, even though it has slowed down, and it has. Even though it's slowed down, you take a listing today, The majority of the time you have that thing sold in 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. You don't need a great big plan. We're going to go back to a market at some point where your listings sit on the market for 12 weeks, 14 weeks. Did you know that historically, if your listings sell shorter than 4 months, that's 16 weeks. If they're selling faster than 4 months, that is still a warm seller's market. Holy hell. We have been so far faster than that for so long, even in the hardest market that most realtors today can remember, which would be 2011 or 2012, most homes were selling in 12 to 15 weeks. And today, that would feel like a buyer's market today, but it's not. Historically speaking, it's not. You don't even move to a buyer's market until you are 6 months average days on market, ADOM. That's a lot. But it's only a lot compared to where we are. Just like interest rates, you could refi today for 2.8 or 2.9%. You know how cheap that is? When the average interest rate since interest rates came out is like 8% or 7.5%. Now, I don't think we're going back to 7.5 or 8 anytime soon. But if we went to 6 tomorrow, which would historically be low, it would feel like sandpaper. Every time rates have ticked up even a quarter or a half point, it's done exactly what the Feds thought it would do, and it has done this. It's stopped the market. It's hiccuped the market, which is why they do it. There's a giant reason, there's a giant political reason and a geopolitical reason to say, we got to slow this down. Now, you and I could agree or disagree with the politics behind it, but it doesn't matter. That's why the Feds do it. That's why it's done. All right, so every seller every week. You are losing your buyers. And the reason you're losing your buyers is that buyers right now are having such a hard time in the market that they're walking away from being in the market because they've now realized that they've gotten beat out on 3 offers in a row. They've been told 3 times in a row, there's 14 offers on that house. Do you want to be the 15th offer? By the way, you're FHA and everybody else is cash, right? Like there's more cash on the street than we've ever seen. It won't stay that way, but that's the market. By the way, Gary Keller said this, you never ever prepare for the market that you're in, you prepare for the market that you're going to be in. It's too late to prepare for the market you're in. You're already in it. You prepare for the one that you're about to be in. This is where you stay in touch. You work hard for your listings, buyer listings, seller listings. People that sign a buyer listing with you, remember, they're prepared, they're able, and they're willing to only buy from you. You call those guys every single week, even if there's no new inventory. You call them and you go, hey, just checking in. How are we doing this week? How are we doing this week? Now, I like the 2x3 method. The 2x3 method is where you talk with people twice a week, 2 different ways. Every 3rd week, you're face-to-face. This is a model that is going to make you millions of dollars if you use it. The 2 contacts a week, one of them is one of them is written and one of them is auditory. So the written one is, and by the way, realtors historically are crappy at follow-up. Like we get beat to death on follow-up and communication. It's our lowest mark as a grade. Always has been, probably always will be. And for you, like I was listening to a speaker once in real estate and they said, I hope someday that we are known for great communication. And I thought, I do not, in fact, hope that we are known for great communication. Screw you, speaker man. I hope that we are always known for terrible communication. You know why? Because then I could stand out by having good communication. The things that our industry is terrible at are things that you can shine at. If our industry got better at it, you couldn't shine anymore. So the things that we're terrible at as an industry, you should breathe and go, oh, thank the gods of real estate that we are a terrible, right? Because that means you can actually be good at it. So the 2 is this, one's written. That's going to be a text, an email, that's going to be a Facebook message, something written. However, I want you to write this down. It is difficult, if not impossible, to transfer urgency and emotion with the written word. You've got to use the spoken word. So the other contact every week is voice, auditory. It'd be cool if you could go see all of your clients every single week. By the way, if you only have a couple, that should be your watermark. If you only have a couple of listings, buyers or sellers, why not get face-to-face every week? Why not stop by their office or set an appointment to go see them if that's appropriate where you live, right? Like go do that. If you have 10 or 15, you probably won't see all 10 or 15 every week. But right now, if you only have 2 or 3, I mean, if you're a sheep herder and you only, and I've never herded sheep, but if you're a sheep herder, I'm going to assume if you only have 3 sheep, they're really easy to keep track of. And you could pet all 3 every week. All 3 could get lots of one-on-one interaction with you. You would never treat your 3 sheep as if you had 3,000. But if you had 3,000 sheep, you could never treat them like you only had 3. Make sense? So be appropriate to where you are. If you've only got 3 clients, guess what you don't need? A system. You don't need a system. You just need to work. You need to quit being lazy. You need to actually go and see your people all the time because you only got 3. For God's sakes, there's going to be a time in your business that you can't go see them when you have 30 or 300. Can't go see 300. But if I got 3, I can go see 3 and see them all the time. If I got 3 clients, I could have coffee every single week with all 3 of them. I could give a high touch degree of business. Be appropriate to where you are. All right, back to what I was talking about before I got off on that rant. 2 contacts a week, one of them speaking like a voicemail or on the phone or in person, and the other is written. Text, email, whatever. The third, though, the every 3 weeks, the three mark, the 2 by 3, is every 3rd week I'm going to get face-to-face at a minimum. And the script is this. You take a listing and you go, listen, until we sell the house for the most amount of money, until we sell the house, every 3rd week, we're going to talk whenever we need to, but every 3rd week, I just want to slow everything down and get face-to-face. And we're going to talk about every idea of marketing. We're going to make sure that we've left no stone unturned because after all, 3 minds are better than 1. By the way, I hope you heard the script. I've said that 1,000 times, 10,000 times. I don't know, a lot. And most of the time, it's a husband and wife or husband or wife, whatever is appropriate. Most of the time, there's 2 decision makers. And that's why I say 3 minds are better than 1. Once in a while, it's 2 minds are better than 1, but it's usually 3. So that's the script. Which you and I both know, especially in this market, if you go 3 weeks and you haven't sold it, the damn thing's overpriced. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to talk about conditioning and pricing. Every 3rd week, we're going to get together. And I'm going to tell them that. And I'm going to say, listen, if we haven't sold it in 3 weeks, we're probably overpriced. We're going to try the very highest we can go. And I hope that I overshoot it because then we're going to come down to what's appropriate. There's so much science in how you set up these conversations. I tell my sellers, it's good news when it's time to reprice because it means we've priced just above where we need to be and we're coming down to the appropriate price because I'm going to cook that into the dialogue with them, but it's going to be the truth. I have a really hard time with scripts that aren't the truth. I can't say them very well and they sound like crap because they are. But when they're truthful, I can say that all day long because it's the truth. I like telling the truth. And then when I call them and say, hey, remember when I told you it's good news to adjust our price because it means we didn't give anything away? They go, oh yeah, it's great. Do you see how much different that is when it's time to do price adjustments? Which, by the way, for the last 14 or 15 months, we haven't had to do a lot of price adjustments. Most things have sold for what we've asked for or more. But please do not begin to think that's the way real estate works. That's just the way it's worked the last 14 or 15 months, and it's already started to change. All right, next. FSBO deals if you must. I use FSBO deals as a placeholder. This is where you're doing, let's say that your goal is 10 listings a month, and it's the 28th of the month, and you've got 8. I think you do whatever it takes in those final 2 days to hit your number. Like, are you willing to hit the number, or was the number a goal, or was the number a commitment? Those are 2 different things. If it was a goal, then cool. You do the best you can and move on. If the goal was a commitment, then you go, wait, I got 2 days left to make my commitment. I'm a person who keeps my commitments and I'll do whatever it takes. Now, FSBO deals if you must. If you're short of your goal, you do whatever it takes to make it happen. Now, I use FSBO because FSBO is the easiest place to go, but most of you don't have enough FSBOs right now in your market. Most of you have a handful of FSBOs. I mean, it's weird. It's weird. Because if there's a market that we should be full of for sale by owners, we're in it. But we're not full of for sale by owners. We are in a market that you could put a sign this size on the front door of the house that says, I'm willing to sell, and someone's going to bring you an offer. We should be full of FSBOs right now, and we're not. Which should tell you, like, as realtors, we've been worried for 15 or 20 years. We've been worried about how they're trying to get rid of us. Not one bit, man. Not one bit. In a market where they could have gotten rid of us the last 12 or 15 months, the amount of FSBOs has been like this. And so that's the consumer saying, no, where's my realtor? Where is my realtor? We're in the hardest market we have ever seen. And they're listing with realtors. They're not going FSBO, which means we've been worried about something we don't need to worry about. So when I say FSBO deal, just know that's a placeholder term. They don't need to be FSBOs. This is where, if I'm doing my follow-up Wednesdays, this is where I get in the habit of taking the 10 listings. Sooner or later, I'll take 10 good listings. You know, the first time I ever took 10 listings in a month, like 4 or 5 were good homes. 2 or 3 were listings I was like, I don't know if these are ever going to sell. And 2 of them, I remember really clear, were mobile homes. They were trailers. We call that real estate. And those 2 I wasn't proud of. And the problem with listing a trailer or a mobile home is they tell their friends. And before you know it, every other mobile home owner in the park is calling you to list their house. I know it because I've lived it. And they were, at the time I was in Anchorage, Alaska, they were like $14,000. They were nothing. You know what 3% of 14 grand is? Not very much. Not enough to live on by any stretch of the imagination. But there came a time where I would take 10 listings and 6 or 7 were pretty good. And then there came a time when I got used to it that I took 10 good listings every month. Then there came a time that I took 10 listings every month that always sold. You don't start at the top. You work your way to the top. You don't wake up at the top of the mountain. No one does. Nobody gets there that way. So here's what I suggest. Deals if you must. If it's the 28th of the month and you're too short, you call all the people that you've been following up with for 2 or 3 months that are kind of like, maybe I'm thinking about it, I'm close. Cody, I told you if I ever list, you're the guy. Like, those are the people you do this with. I want you to write this down. Deals are relationship closers, not relationship openers. They're cheesy if you use them for a relationship opener, but they're not cheesy for relationship closers. Like, these are great. You call them, and I did this infamous for this in my own business. I would call FSBOs and say, listen, I know you've told me I'm the guy. If you ever list, you're just weird about the money. I'm totally good with that. I've got a challenge though. And I think it's going to be good news for you. And they go, what? And you go, well, there's 2 days left in the month and I need 2 more listings to hit my goal. And I always hit my goal. So I'm willing to list your home. Let's try it for the weekend. We'll list it for 3 days. If I haven't sold it by Monday, you can have it back, go right back to a FSBO. Now, I had permission to do it. And I'll tell you, if you do anything that's weird like that, get permission from your brokerage. It's better to ask permission than forgiveness when it comes to those things. Because I also used to call FSBOs and expireds people that were weird about commission, and I would tell them things like, hey, I'm 1 listing shy and we've been talking for 7 weeks. Or 10 weeks. And I know I'm the guy when you list, I'm 1 shy of my goal, which means I could list your home today and I'm going to put in the commission just the buyer side commission. We'll call it 3%. And we'll leave the listing side commission mine. We'll leave it blank. You could tell me at closing how much you think I've earned. Now, most of my clients, they pay me blank amount. Did you know the majority of the time when it came to closing, that person paid me blank amount? Every once in a while, they paid me 0.1 more or 0.2% more, almost like it was a tip. Well, I didn't get very many tips as a realtor, but if there's tips to be had, I'm an Uber driver. They're not mandatory and they're also not returned. I'm keeping them. And once in a while, somebody paid me less. So what? So what? I still had the listing. And being paid less was still better than being paid nothing. I've been in business for a really long time, and something is always better than no money. Now, I'm not talking about just giving away your commission. I don't think you need to. I think you can do creative things that don't allow for that. But if I had to, I will. You bet. Yep. Because I might do it for a month or 2, but I won't do it forever. I'll do it to hit a goal, and then I'll learn how to do it without having to do that. But I'm committed to the goal. I was coaching this guy. I'll tell you the story. I was coaching this guy, and he was 1 short. And I said, well, and it was like the last day of the month, and he had 9 listings, and he was so excited. He'd never had 9 listings in a month. And I was like, cool, man. His name is Ken. I said, Ken, I'm giving you a high five from my office. We were on the phone, right? Like, I'm giving you a high five, man. Good job. Clapping for you. And he goes, I don't know where to go. He'd already gone through his entire like top 10 list. Like if I coach with somebody, we have a top 10 list all the time of their most likely clients. He'd already gone through. He listed one of them, which is how we went from 8 to 9. We still had one day and he was one short. And I said, well, we're going to find out tomorrow if it was a goal or a commitment. And he goes, what do you mean? And I said, if it's a commitment, you'll find a way. If it's a goal, you'll wish a way showed up. And I said, both are okay. You're not a bad guy. By the way, you just took 9 listings this month. You never had 9. Good for you. And he said, but I want 10. And I said, well, we're going to find out. We're going to know tomorrow. His wife was driving home from work. It was 5 o'clock. She's driving home from work. She pulls into the driveway and she looks over to the side. There's a damn for sale sign at his house, their house. She goes, what? And he comes out and he goes, listen, baby, we're for sale by owner. So we listed it for twice what it's actually worth. We're never moving. But he listed his own house. Like that's how committed he was to hitting 10. Now, as I coached him, did you know for the next year, he did that 2 or 3 other times? He was short one listing at the very end of the month, and he would list his own house for a week. Never had to move because he never sold it. Do you get my point? And did you know, like when I see him every once in a while, I jokingly remind him about that story or he brings it up. The next year, he didn't have to do it at all. He always hit 10. That's my point. You might do some weird stuff as you're flirting with these numbers. That's okay. You're going to graduate and never go back. There was a day that I quit having to offer strategic commission rates, and I never had to do it again. There was a day that I had to offer a strategic commission rate to get to my number, and I hadn't done it for 4 months, and I was like, wow, that's weird. That's okay. That's what it looks like when you're flirting with a new level. I keep hitting the wrong button. All right. Practice your presentation every week. This is where if you're selling less than 2 homes a month, you should be spending at least an hour a week just practicing your presentation. You're going to look down one day and go, hey, I'm selling 10 homes a month. You probably don't need to practice your presentation anymore because you're doing it so damn much. You're getting better as you go. But until you're there, you're not getting better as you go. If you're only doing a sale every couple of months or 5 sales a year or even just 10 sales a year, you're not getting better with age. You're getting worse with age because you're not doing it enough, which means you have to supplement it. But if you're selling 10 or 12 homes a month, you never need to practice the presentation. Listen, Holmes, you're killing it and you're doing it so much, you're getting better as you go. But if you're only selling a few homes a year, that's the slow boat to success. This is where you stop and go, nope. I'm going to practice the presentation. I'm going to list my refrigerator every single week. I'm going to stand there for 40 minutes and give my presentation to my toaster or my coffee pot until I get better at it. And the way that you'll know you're better at it is when you don't need to practice it anymore. And it's not because you know it by heart. That's the first step. The second step is knowing it by heart so well that you give it to people. The third step is actually having it work. And you look down and you go, cool, I'm taking 10 listings a month and I've done it for 6 months now. I don't need to practice the presentation anymore because I'm now practicing it on stage in front of them. And if you practice it for 40 minutes this week, you'll be no better than last week. That's a fact. That's true. Maybe a little bit better. Maybe a skosh better. Lacey, you can go ahead and take me out of the PowerPoint back into the regular room. If you practice it for 40 minutes or 45 minutes this week and you did it again next week and you did it for 40 or 50 weeks, you'd be better than anybody in your market. That's what we say when we say overkill over time. All right, so that's all the words I can say without breathing in, I don't know how long it's been since we started, but a little while. If you have any questions, I'm still good on time. I got a couple of more minutes. I'm going to look in the chat real quick and see if you've got anything. Follow-up call and script is so much easier, more fun and profitable. Awesome. Very good. If you have there's no questions in here. If you have a question or a comment or something you want me to respond to directly, I'm happy to. If you've been busy writing notes and listening or something else, that's totally cool. You don't offend me if there's no notes or no questions. Like I'm good. Like I don't ever judge that. But if you have one, I want to make sure that you know I can handle it if you've got one. I'll leave you with a couple of thoughts. Thought number 1, I would rather get better than be better. And here's what I mean. I'm on a path all the time to become a little better than I was yesterday. And I believe in the idea of 1%. And I believe in waking up and being 1% better than yesterday. I believe it. And you can't beat someone who doesn't stop. All right. So one person said, where can we get a copy of your scripts? I don't have anywhere. I did do an ebook that you could grab. It's 7 Steps to 10 Listings. The people that are in my expansion business get tired of hearing from me because we're constantly talking and sharing scripts and teaching. So anybody who asks that is just someone who's not in my expansion business, because you actually still want to hear them again and again and again. So that's nice to hear. So thank you. Tactics to mindset. I'll only say one thing about mindset. The only thing that matters to me is mindset. If you're learning something new or doing something new, who you think you are matters more than who you actually were. 2 different things. Being broke and being poor are 2 different things. Let me tell you what I mean. Being broke is a position. Being poor is a mindset. There's been lots of times in my life I've looked down and not had any money in my bank account. That didn't make me poor, made me broke. Broke is just a period of time. Broke is just a spot where you go, I'm a little tight of money right now. By the way, I've looked down and had expansion businesses in 100 cities and been broke because this happened or this happened and we spent all the money that came in. Like, that happens. Just because you're big doesn't mean you don't have money struggle. Sometimes the bigger you are, the more struggles you find. But I've never once been poor, because poor is a mindset. Poor is the way people look at the world. I've never been poor. I've been out of money, but I've never been poor. Do I do coaching? I don't do any one-on-one coaching anymore. I wish I had time, but today I coach in our expansion business, and I coach from theaters of rooms, whether it's online like this, or whether it's on stage at a KW event, or virtual or in person or whatever it might be. That's where I put all of my time. And then I'll coach inside of our expansion business with what we call our regional directors. So our regional directors are somebody who is over a region of expansion. So whether it's Florida or California or a portion of California or Texas or wherever it is, or the Northwest, like, we have regional directors that are the coaches to our expansion partners. And so what I do today is I coach them, and then they coach our partners, because at some point I can only coach as many people as I could. But if I coached the coaches, then all of a sudden we could reach 100 people or 1,000 people or 10,000 people. Do I have a coach? I do have 2. So, well, I mean, I have more than 2. Coach is a funny term. Coach is like mentor. I've had mentors for years that don't know my name. Tony Robbins has been a mentor of mine as a speaker for years. He wouldn't know me. I could walk into a room and he wouldn't know my name or my face, but he's been a mentor of mine. And some of the mentors you choose will never know you. I think you should have mentors that don't know you. Gary Keller was a mentor of mine before he ever knew who I was. Coaches know you. 2 different things. So I do have 2 coaches that I pay. I have other coaches that I pay once in a while, or I hire occasionally. So if I looked at my whole world right now, I probably have 8 official coaches. I have 2 coaches on the business side that I talk to every single week. One coaches me on leadership only, and one coaches me on production only. The business got to the point where I had to become a better leader for the business to go forward, and I couldn't give up on production, but I couldn't have the same coach for both. It's kind of like if you're an athlete, you might look down and go, you know what? I want to be coached on my athleticism, but I also want to be coached on how am I turning my athleticism into business ventures. Those aren't going to be the same coaches. So that's what I started to do. Do you have agents that work for you, or do you just partner with agents? I don't have any agents who work for me. We just partner. And so we have partners, and they work in our expansion business, but none of our agents work for me. And I don't work for them. We're partners. We work together. If I'm not in your expansion, can I be a part of it? That was a direct message. That's fine. I just read that one out loud. I won't use the name, so that's fun. Yes, probably. Do I do coaching? Nothing for hire. contacted that. What great contact software or CRM do you use? There's two answers to this. The shitty answer is whichever one you'll use. And I hate that answer because that's garbage, but it's not untrue. It's just a garbage answer. The best one that I know right now, we use Command within KW because we already pay for it. So we already have it. There's no reason not to use it, but we also use Sync. Sync is Commissions Inc. It's just really expensive. It's $1,500. Well, it's $1,200 now. It's $1,200 a month to use it. It's just expensive, but it's expensive for a reason. My expansion partners across the country, every expansion partner gets access to Sync without having to pay the $1,200. I pay it for them. So I guess I give the answer a couple different ways. If I'm broke, I'm not going to spend $1,200 a month on a CRM at all. I'm going to earn money until I can spend it. But through expansion, I can offer it to people that probably can't afford it on their own, but could afford it with me. And that's where partnership comes in. All right, last one, and then I got to roll. What's the best way to use Sync, meaning follow up and lead to deal? Do you have custom? I don't know what do you have custom means. Maybe it's just half a custom drips. Yes. But we quit using our custom drips because the drips in Sync were better than ours. When I was with Boomtown, we used to write our own and we would rank them. But the thing with Sync is that Sync actually changes the drip campaign based on, this gets very technical. They base it off, are the drip campaigns being opened and being clicked? And that's where Sync uses AI, artificial intelligence, because I could write a great follow-up campaign, but I cannot write a great follow-up campaign that works for everybody. Can't. So Sync uses AI, artificial intelligence, that says, hey, they're clicking on this repeatedly, send them this message. They're not clicking on this, try that message. There's no way you or I could do that because all we could use is intelligence. We can't use artificial intelligence. So we did our own drips for a long time. We quit doing them. What we do though instead is we allow the system to bring people back. And so the system, we sold a home the other day that's been in our drip campaign bucket, our Internet lead gen bucket, for 48 months. That means for 47 months, they've told us, I'm not ready. For 47 months, they've said, don't call me again. For 47 months, they've said, take me off your list. And on month number 48, they bought a house from us. Everybody buys or sells from us. Everybody does. It's a matter of how long it takes. Some of them do it in 10 minutes. Some of them do it in 10 months. And someone's going to do it in 10 years. Right now, the oldest one we have is like 60 something months, like 5.5 years. But someone's going to do one that's going to have been rolling around our bucket for a decade. And on that day, I'm going to do a little dance because I know that there's someone who's going to do it. My job is not to rush the process. My job is to have a process. Two different things. Everyone's going to buy or sell at some point with me. It's just a matter of how long it takes to get there. All right. I hope that you took some notes from that. I hope that you enjoyed it. This was a private session done by invite. So whoever it was that invited you to come and do this, please don't thank me, thank them. Like they're the one who put you in the room and said, hey, I want you to come and check this out. There's a reason for it. And so thank them. If I could help you with anything, my email is easy to find. I'm CodyGibson@kw.com. If we're not connected on Instagram, I'm Cody Gibson 1, just the numeral 1 on Instagram. That's a great place for us to connect. Thank you for being here. I hope you got something from it. I enjoyed it. Happy Friday. Go and have the best weekend ever. Make sure that you say thanks to whoever invited you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Cody. Bye, everybody.